Artificial intelligence, is that a hype that you're hearing, or is it a reality that you're investing in?
It's definitely the one exception to the macro that we've been seeing. And I would say we back the world's most innovative financial services companies, and we're already seeing interesting applications beyond enterprise and beyond the obvious, which I think most people would think, how can AI in a large financial institution really improve customer service? That's kind of the first most obvious place. But I do think it can enable so much more. In the future, I can imagine a world in which your complete financial picture as a consumer is actually completely automated by AI. So it's beyond just being able to interact in natural language, but also be able to actually have the AI and or machine learning do things on your behalf.
Steph, I know an area in fintech that you're really positive about is vertical SaaS. And what I wanted to ask you is, do you make bets on AI-related startups, or do you make bets on the companies and startups that will benefit from other AI tools? Do you see what I mean?
I'm much more excited about vertical-specific SaaS than I am about horizontal AI, because at the end of the day, I think you still need very specific semantic subject matter expertise and a focus on a specific target segment in order to create a great product experience. So we have always been focused on know your customer, serve your customer well, and AI is going to be a tool that allows you to better serve that customer and that segment. So ultimately, I think we're much more bullish on the vertical focus rather than the horizontal technology, which I think at the end of the day is probably going to be owned by the likes of OpenAI. Ultimately, and I would add one other thing, which is in the future, if the models are in fact kind of commoditized, what really matters is the very specific data that you have. And proprietary data becomes the moat and the major advantage. And therefore, that also favors vertical specific applications versus horizontal applications.
Steph, I wanted to talk a bit about the environment that we're in. Matt Harris from Bain Venture Capital Partners has been on the show recently. We had Layla Sturdy from Capital G, both basically saying, actually, it's a great time to be writing checks, particularly at the earlier stage of the curve. Do you kind of agree with them that there's a lot of opportunity in this moment?
I would say it depends on how you think about what early stage is. I think across the board, because of where the Fed rates are, risk assets are now out of favor. I would say the largest impact has been on Series C and Series D in the market, where we've seen valuations drop more than 50% at Series D, really mirroring the public markets dropping 70%. I would say seed and Series A valuations, which are on the earlier side of the curve, we've also seen a trickle-down effect there, but it's been the biggest lag. So valuations there have dropped more like 10 to 25%. Across the board, I would say it is a great time to be a venture investor. However, the later stage venture deals, where there's been an exodus and an imbalance of supply and demand in terms of capital, have seen the largest valuation fallouts.
When you're looking at the early stages you do, Steph, where in the world do you focus? Because what's really interesting about your portfolio is it is so global. I'm looking at French, German, insurtech companies, for example. Is Europe right? Is it still about the US? Is it Asia?
I would say we've got a really global portfolio. About a third of our portfolio is in Europe. There are very significant, as you guys would know, regional differences even within Europe in terms of where the regulatory environment is going, in terms of if you look at the differences between banking, insurance, and wealth management. So we see global macro trends as being really interesting. There's investments to be made in Europe, investments to be made in North America. I would say in times like this, where valuations have decreased globally, we tend to see flight to capital to larger, more established markets like the US, like the UK, et cetera. But obviously within fintech, you need to be aware of the regulatory nuances of each specific country that you operate in.